The ocean's roar was a distant whisper compared to the pounding in Kyle Bennett's ears as he sprinted across the weathered planks of Harbor Point Dock. His feet thundered against the wood, droplets of rain slicing through the evening air as he spotted a figure at the far end, a woman in a sleek business suit struggling to maintain her footing on the slippery surface, dangerously close to the edge where the dock met open water. "Hold on," Kyle shouted, his voice carrying over the rising wind. The woman's head snapped up, surprise etched across her rain-streaked face as her heel caught in a gap between the planks. She teetered backward, arms pinwheeling as she fought gravity and lost. Kyle lunged forward, sliding the last few feet on his knees, ignoring the burning sensation as the rough wood tore through his jeans. His right hand shot out, fingers closing around her wrist just as she slipped over the edge. The sudden weight nearly yanked his shoulder from its socket, but he gritted his teeth, his left hand finding purchase on a mooring cleat bolted to the dock. "I've got you," he gasped, meeting her wide, startled eyes hazel with flecks of gold he noticed even in the dimming light. "Just hold on." Using every ounce of strength in his 34-year-old frame, Kyle pulled the woman upward until she could grasp the edge of the dock. Together, they managed to get her back onto solid footing, both collapsing onto the wet planks, breathing heavily as the rain continued to fall. "Thank you," she managed between breaths, pushing strands of wet auburn hair from her face. I don't even know what to say." Kyle sat up, wincing at the state of his knees. "Are you okay? What were you doing out here in this weather?" "I could ask you the same thing," she replied, a hint of a smile touching her lips despite the circumstances. "Dad," a small voice called from further up the dock. Kyle turned to see his 7-year-old daughter, Emma, standing under the shelter of the harbor master's office overhang, clutching a small tackle box to her chest. "I'm coming, sweetie," Kyle called back before turning to the woman. "That would be my reason for being out in this mess." Promised her fishing lessons rain or shine, didn't expect the storm to roll in so quickly. He extended his hand. "Kyle Bennett." She took his hand, her grip surprisingly firm despite her ordeal. "Gabriella Wells," she replied, "and I was checking the marina before the storm hit." Force of habit, I suppose. Something about her name tickled at Kyle's memory, but he couldn't place it. "Well, Miss Wells, you might want to consider less dangerous inspection methods in the future." The rain intensified and Kyle glanced toward Emma. "We should get going." "Do you need a ride somewhere? My truck's just up in the parking lot." Gabriella looked toward the marina entrance where a sleek black sedan was visible, its hazard lights blinking. "I have my driver waiting, but thank you." She reached into her pocket and pulled out a business card, somehow still dry despite her near dip in the harbor. "If you'll let me, I'd like to thank you properly." "Perhaps coffee?" Kyle accepted the card, raising an eyebrow as he read it. "Gabriella Wells, CEO, Coastal Horizons Corporation." He let out a low whistle. "Well, that explains the suit at a fishing dock." A sheepish smile crossed her face. "We're developing the North Marina. I like to check on our properties personally, especially before storms." "Dad," Emma called again, more insistent this time, "coming." Kyle pocketed the card. "Duty calls. Take care of yourself, Miss Wells." "Gabriella, please," she corrected him. "And I meant what I said about thanking you." Kyle nodded, already jogging back toward his daughter. "Maybe next time we'll both stay on the right side of the dock." By the time they reached the safety of his rusted pickup truck, Emma was bursting with questions. "Was that lady going to fall in the water? Did you save her? Is she your friend now?" Kyle buckled Emma into her booster seat, grateful he kept a change of clothes for both of them in the truck. "One question at a time, kiddo. Yes, she nearly fell, and yes, I helped her. And no, she's not my friend, just someone who needed help." Emma's face scrunched in thought as Kyle started the engine. "She was pretty, even all wet," Kyle chuckled, adjusting the heater. "I didn't really notice, Em. I was too busy making sure she didn't take a swim." That was a lie. He had noticed. Something about Gabriella Wells had struck him immediately, a quiet confidence that even near disaster couldn't shake. But Kyle had learned the hard way that women like Gabriella, successful, polished, powerful, didn't mix with single dads working 2 jobs to make ends meet. "Can we still go fishing tomorrow?" Emma asked, breaking into his thoughts. "If the weather clears, absolutely." Kyle promised, navigating through the rain-slicked streets toward their small rental house on the edge of Port Haven. But tonight, it's hot chocolate and maybe a movie. How does that sound? Emma's enthusiastic approval made Kyle smile. 3 years after losing his wife to cancer, these simple moments with his daughter were what kept him going. Between his day job as a high school shop teacher and evening work as a carpenter, there was precious little time for anything else, certainly not for entertaining thoughts about captivating CEOs with golden-flecked eyes. The business card burned a hole in his pocket all the way home. 3 days later, Kyle was kneeling on the floor of his workshop, helping Emma sand down a small wooden sailboat they were building together, when his phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "Mr. Bennett, this is Gabriella Wells. I hope it's not presumptuous, but I obtained your number from the school where you teach. I'd still like to thank you properly for your heroics. Are you free for coffee this weekend?" Kyle stared at the message, sawdust coating his fingertips. He hadn't expected to hear from her, had convinced himself the card was merely a polite gesture. "Dad, you're not sanding," Emma pointed out, her small hands continuing to move the sandpaper along the boat's hull. "Sorry, kiddo," Kyle muttered, setting his phone aside. But the text gnawed at him throughout the afternoon. That evening, after Emma was asleep, he finally replied, "Miss Wells, no need for thanks. Just glad you're okay. Weekends are usually Emma time, but we could meet at Harborside Cafe Friday after school, around 4. The response came almost immediately. "Perfect. I'll see you then." Friday afternoon found Kyle nervously checking his reflection in the rearview mirror of his truck. He'd come straight from school, wearing the same button-down shirt and khakis he'd taught in all day. Emma sat in the back seat, swinging her legs. "Is this a date, Dad?" she asked innocently. Kyle nearly choked. "No, Em, just meeting a new friend to talk for a bit. You remember the lady from the dock? She just wants to say thank you." Emma nodded sagely. "Like when we took cookies to Mr. Jimenez when he helped fix our sink." "Exactly like that," Kyle agreed, relieved at her simple understanding. "Now you've got your books. We won't be long, but I want you to be able to keep yourself busy." The Harborside Cafe was busy with the after-school crowd, but Kyle spotted Gabriella immediately. She sat at a corner table, typing rapidly on a laptop. Today, her auburn hair was pulled back in a sleek ponytail, and she wore a casual but clearly expensive blouse with tailored jeans. She looked up as they approached, her face brightening. "Mr. Bennett," she said, rising to her feet. "And who might this be?" "Please, it's Kyle," he corrected. "And this is my daughter, Emma. Emma, this is Miss Wells." "You can call me Gabriella," she told Emma with a warm smile. "It's very nice to meet you." Emma, suddenly shy, pressed against Kyle's side. "My dad saved you from falling in the water." "He certainly did," Gabriella agreed, gesturing for them to sit. "That's why I wanted to thank him properly." She slid a small gift bag across the table. "This is for both of you." Kyle hesitated before opening the bag, pulling out 2 annual passes to the Port Haven Aquarium. His eyebrows shot up in surprise. "Emma mentioned you were teaching her to fish," Gabriella explained. "I thought she might enjoy seeing some fish that are a bit harder to catch." Emma's eyes widened with excitement. "Really? Dad, can we go?" Kyle was touched by the thoughtfulness of the gift. The aquarium passes were expensive, something he'd promised Emma they'd save up for as a special treat. "This is very generous, but please don't refuse," Gabriella interrupted gently. "It's the least I can do. You risked your safety for a complete stranger." Their coffee stretched into an hour of easy conversation. Kyle learned that Gabriella had built Coastal Horizons from a small real estate investment firm into one of the largest development companies on the eastern seaboard. Her current project was transforming the aging North Marina into a modern waterfront district with shopping, restaurants, and improved docking facilities. "It sounds impressive," Kyle acknowledged, "but I hope you're keeping some of the old character. This town was built on fishing and boat building." Gabriella tilted her head, studying him. "That's actually something I've been wrestling with. The board wants maximum return on investment, but I've been pushing for preserving the working waterfront elements." She hesitated. "Would you be willing to show me some of what you think makes the harbor special?" As a local, before Kyle could respond, Emma chimed in. Dad knows everything about boats. He's building me one in his workshop. A sailboat. Gabriella's eyes widened with genuine interest. Are you really? That's impressive. Kyle felt his cheeks warm. It's just a small craft, something to teach Emma the basics of sailing when she's a bit older. He builds lots of things, Emma continued proudly. He fixed Mrs. Abernathy's porch and made Mr. Peterson's cabinet and built the big bookshelf in my classroom at school. Is that so? Gabriella's gaze held new appreciation. You're a man of many talents, Kyle Bennett. The warmth in her voice made something shift in Kyle's chest. For the first time in years, he felt seen not just as Emma's dad or as the shop teacher who did carpentry on the side, but as a skilled craftsman, a man with knowledge worth sharing. If you're serious about wanting a local's perspective on the harbor, he found himself saying, Emma and I could give you a tour this Sunday. Show you what makes this place special to us. The smile that spread across Gabriella's face sent his pulse racing. I would like that very much. Sunday dawned clear and bright, perfect weather for exploring the harbor. Kyle arrived early with Emma, setting up a small picnic on one of the public benches overlooking the water. He'd spent more time than he cared to admit choosing what to wear, finally settling on clean jeans and a navy Henley that Emma assured him looked handsome. Do you think Gabriella likes peanut butter and jelly? Emma asked, arranging and rearranging the sandwich containers Kyle had packed. I don't know, Em. She might have already eaten. Rich people eat lunch too, Dad, Emma said with the certainty only a 7-year-old could muster. Kyle laughed. Yes, they do. I'm just saying we shouldn't assume she'll join our picnic. But when Gabriella arrived punctual to the minute, she was delighted by their spread. This looks wonderful, she said, settling beside Emma on the bench. Today she wore white shorts and a light blue top, her hair loose around her shoulders. Without the business attire, she looked younger, more approachable. Emma insisted we pack extra in case you were hungry, Kyle explained, handing her a sandwich. Well, thank you, Emma, Gabriella said seriously. I'm absolutely starving. They ate overlooking the water, Emma chattering about school and her friends, Gabriella listening with genuine interest. Kyle watched them, something warm unfurling in his chest at how easily Gabriella engaged with his daughter. After lunch, they began their tour. Kyle showed Gabriella the old boatyards where generations of craftsmen had built everything from simple rowboats to ocean-going vessels. They explored the commercial fishing docks, where Kyle was greeted by name by several weathered captains. He explained the seasonal rhythms of the harbor, which boats fished for what and when, how the community had adapted over decades to changing conditions. This is all going to be redeveloped. Kyle asked as they walked along the weathered planks of the North Marina, the area Coastal Horizons had purchased. Gabriella nodded, though her expression had grown thoughtful. That was the plan. High-end condos, boutique shops, a few restaurants. And where would the Peterson brothers dock their lobster boat? Kyle asked, gesturing to a battered but well-maintained vessel tied nearby. Or where would Marco repair nets? He pointed to an old shed where an elderly man was methodically working through a pile of fishing nets. Gabriella frowned. The economic analysis suggested most of these operations were barely profitable. The assumption was they would relocate or transition. Transition to what? Kyle asked quietly. Marco's been mending nets for 50 years. The Petersons have been pulling lobsters from these waters since their grandfather taught them how. This isn't just commerce, Gabriella. It's culture, heritage. She was silent for a long moment, watching as Emma crouched near the water, pointing excitedly at a small school of fish. I never thought of it that way, she finally admitted. In the boardroom, everything is spreadsheets and projections. Out here, it's different, Kyle nodded. I'm not saying don't develop. This place could use some investment, some new energy. But maybe there's a way to do it that doesn't erase what makes it special. A mixed development, Gabriella murmured, almost to herself. Commercial space for existing businesses at subsidized rates, improvements to the working docks, plus the upscale elements that will generate the real revenue. Her eyes lit with enthusiasm. It could work. It could actually be better than the original plan. She turned to Kyle suddenly, grasping his arm. Would you be willing to consult on this? Give me your insights as we refine the plans. I'd pay you, of course. Kyle blinked in surprise. I'm a high school shop teacher and a part-time carpenter. What do I know about development projects? You know this harbor, Gabriella replied simply. You know these people, that's expertise I need. Before Kyle could respond, Emma called out, Dad, Gabriella, come look at the baby crabs. They spent the rest of the afternoon exploring the harbor's nooks and crannies, Kyle pointing out features that tourists never noticed, Gabriella taking notes on her phone and asking insightful questions. As the sun began to set, painting the water in shades of gold and pink, Kyle realized they'd spent the entire day together. This was. Gabriella paused, searching for the right word. Illuminating, thank you both. Can we do it again? Emma asked hopefully. Kyle started to demur, but Gabriella answered first. I would like that very much, Emma, if your dad agrees. Their eyes met over Emma's head, and Kyle felt something shift between them, an acknowledgement that this day had been about more than harbor development plans. I think we could arrange that, he said softly. Over the next few weeks, Gabriella became a regular fixture in their lives. She hired Kyle as a consultant, insisting on paying him a rate that made him uncomfortable until she pointed out it was standard for his expertise. They met regularly to discuss the marina plans, sometimes in her sleek downtown office, sometimes walking the docks together. On weekends, she often joined their outings, a trip to the aquarium with the passes she'd given them, a day at the beach building sandcastles with Emma, an afternoon in Kyle's workshop where he showed her the basics of woodworking. Each time, Kyle found himself more drawn to her, not just her beauty, but her sharp mind, her dedication to getting things right, the way she listened to others with genuine interest. Dad, is Gabriella your girlfriend now? Emma asked one evening as he tucked her into bed. They had spent the day sailing in a friend's small boat, Gabriella laughing as Kyle taught her to handle the tiller. Kyle hesitated. It's complicated, Em. Why, you smile all the time when she's around, and she laughs at your jokes even when they're not funny. Hey, Kyle protested, but he was smiling. It's just, Gabriella and I come from different worlds. She runs a big company, she travels all over for business, our lives are very different. Emma considered this with the seriousness only a child can bring to adult complications. But she likes being in our world, I can tell. Out of the mouths of babes, Kyle thought as he kissed Emma goodnight. His daughter had seen what he had been too cautious to acknowledge, that Gabriella seemed genuinely happy in their company, that the careful distance he'd been maintaining might be unnecessary. The next day, Kyle arrived at Gabriella's office for their scheduled meeting to find her pacing, phone pressed to her ear, expression tight with frustration. I understand the board's concerns, she was saying as he entered, but I'm asking you to trust me on this. The revised plan is financially sound and provides significant community benefits. She paused, listening. Yes, I'm aware of the profit margin difference. I'm prepared to make that case. She ended the call with a sigh, turning to Kyle with an apologetic smile. Sorry about that. The board is pushing back on the mixed-use concept. Kyle frowned. Are you in trouble because of my suggestions? Gabriella shook her head, motioning for him to sit. Not trouble exactly, just the usual resistance to change. They hired me for my vision, but that doesn't mean they always trust it immediately. She spread the revised marina plans across her desk, beautiful renderings showing renovated docks for commercial fishing alongside modern facilities for pleasure craft. Historic sheds transformed into working spaces adjacent to new retail. It was a thoughtful blend of old and new, preservation and progress. This is remarkable, Kyle said honestly. You've really listened. I had a good teacher, Gabriella replied, her eyes meeting his. Something in her gaze made his breath catch. Gabriella, he began hesitantly, Emma asked me last night if you were my girlfriend. Her eyes widened slightly. And what did you tell her? That it was complicated, that we come from different worlds. Gabriella was silent for a moment, her fingers tracing the outline of a building on the plans. Is that really what you think? That we're too different, Kyle took a deep breath. I think that you're brilliant and successful and could have any man you wanted. And I'm a widower with a 7-year-old, teaching high school and building furniture on the side to make ends meet. and saving women from falling off docks," she added softly. "And knowing every person in the harbor by name and building sailboats for your daughter. And having the insight to see value where others see only profit potential." She stepped around the desk, coming to stand before him. "Maybe I don't want just any man, Kyle." His heart thundered in his chest as she continued. "These past weeks have been. I can't remember the last time I felt so present, so engaged with life outside of spreadsheets and projections. You and Emma have shown me a different way of seeing the world." Kyle stood, closing the distance between them. "Are you sure about this? Your life is board meetings and business travel. Mine is school schedules and woodshop dust. And maybe I need more woodshop dust in my life," she countered, a smile playing at her lips. "Maybe you could use an occasional board meeting. We don't have to be just one thing, Kyle." The truth of her words resonated through him. Hesitantly, he reached up to brush a strand of hair from her face. "Emma would be thrilled," he murmured. "She adores you." "And her father?" Gabriella asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Instead of answering, Kyle leaned forward, pressing his lips gently to hers. The kiss was tender, questioning, and then as Gabriella's arms wound around his neck, deepening into something more certain, more promising. When they finally parted, both slightly breathless, Gabriella rested her forehead against his. "I think we should consider that a yes." The following months brought changes both expected and surprising. The board eventually approved Gabriella's revised marina plan, impressed by the positive community response and the pre-leasing interest from both existing businesses and new ventures. Construction began with a ceremony where Emma proudly helped break ground, wielding a child-sized shovel alongside the mayor. Kyle continued teaching, but reduced his evening carpentry jobs, instead focusing on a new partnership with Gabriella, a program to teach traditional boat-building skills to local youth, housed in one of the restored sheds at the marina. The first project was completing Emma's sailboat, now built with the help of 6 enthusiastic teenagers. Gabriella found herself spending more evenings at Kyle's modest rental house than her waterfront condo, helping Emma with homework and learning to cook simple meals under Kyle's patient guidance. She adjusted her schedule to attend Emma's school events, surprising herself with how much she enjoyed the community aspect of these gatherings. "You know," Kyle said one evening as they sat on his porch swing, watching Emma chase fireflies in the small yard, "when I pulled you back from that dock edge, I never imagined we'd end up here." Gabriella leaned into his side, content. "Sometimes life's best moments come from its unexpected turns." "Speaking of unexpected," Kyle said, shifting slightly to reach into his pocket, "I've been carrying this around for a week, waiting for the right moment." He pulled out a small, handcrafted wooden box. "I made this. Open it." With curious fingers, Gabriella lifted the lid to reveal a ring nestled on a cushion of blue velvet, a simple but elegant design with a sapphire, the color of the harbor waters surrounded by small diamonds. "Kyle," she breathed, looking up to find him watching her intently. "I know it's only been 8 months," he said softly, "and I know our lives are still adjusting to each other, but I'm certain, Gabriella, I'm certain about you, about us. Emma and I both are." He took her hand. "Will you marry me? Will you anchor with us permanently?" Tears filled Gabriella's eyes as she nodded. "Yes," she whispered. "Yes to all of it." Emma, sensing something important was happening, abandoned her firefly chase to bound onto the porch. "What's going on?" she demanded, eyes widening as she spotted the ring box. "Dad, is that what I think it is?" Kyle grinned. "If you think it's an engagement ring, then yes." Emma squealed with delight, throwing her arms around both of them. "Does this mean Gabriella will live with us forever, and we can have her pancakes every Saturday?" Laughing through her tears, Gabriella hugged Emma close. "It means we'll be a family, the 3 of us together. And maybe more someday," Emma asked hopefully. Kyle and Gabriella exchanged startled glances, then burst into laughter. "One step at a time, kiddo," Kyle said, ruffling his daughter's hair. "One step at a time." They married the following spring in a ceremony at the newly completed harbor park, part of the marina redevelopment. Emma served as both flower girl and ring bearer, solemn in her responsibilities, until the moment the officiant pronounced them husband and wife. at which point she broke into spontaneous applause that had all the guests joining in. The reception was held in the largest of the restored boatsheds, now a community event space. Commercial fishermen mingled with corporate executives, teachers chatted with developers, and through it all, Kyle and Gabriella moved hand in hand, two worlds now seamlessly joined. As evening fell, they slipped away to the end of the main dock, the very spot where they had first met almost exactly 1 year earlier. "You know," Gabriella said, leaning against the railing beside her new husband, "I've been thinking about that day. If I hadn't slipped, if you hadn't been there. If Emma hadn't insisted on fishing lessons rain or shine," Kyle added, slipping an arm around her waist. So many coincidences had to align. She turned in his arms. Or maybe it wasn't coincidence at all. Maybe it was exactly where we both needed to be. Kyle smiled, drawing her close. "Either way, I'm grateful. For that moment and for every moment since." Behind them, the lights of the renovated harbor twinkled like stars fallen to earth, reflecting in the calm waters. The old and the new stood side by side in harmony, working boats alongside pleasure craft, historic structures beside modern amenities. A perfect balance, much like the one they had found together. "Dad, Gabriella." Emma's voice carried across the docks as she ran toward them, sparklers in both hands leaving trails of light in the growing darkness. "Come back. They're about to do the lanterns." Hand in hand, they walked back toward the celebration, toward their future, a future neither could have imagined that rainy evening when a struggling single father saved a CEO from slipping off a dock, not knowing they would eventually anchor together in the safe harbor of family, love, and shared purpose.